Do some women falsely believe the more productive I am and the more plans I have less time to worry about having these wrong thoughts? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something a lot of us chase.
Well, I think how you would know whether that's true for you or not is when everything quiets down, where does my mind go? At the end of the day, when things are still, do I have to create some type of stimulation in my brain so I'm not left with my thoughts? Do I have to watch TV? Do I have to scroll on my phone? Do I have to pick up something to distract myself?
My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. On this podcast, I like to talk about simplifying your life so you can live out your priorities. I help you learn how to cook from scratch and decorate on a budget through this podcast and my courses, Simple Sourdough and the Simple Sewing series. I also help people reach their goals from home through my business course, YouTube Success Academy. I will leave links to these resources in the show notes and description box below. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today, we are having on Hannah Keeley to talk about mom brain. So mom brain can cause symptoms like overwhelm, distraction, anxiety. I think a lot of us maybe deal with some or all of those things. And that's because our brains change after we have kids. And I can't think of a better guest to bring on to speak on this and encourage us than Hannah Keeley, mom of 7, mom coach. Let's dive into the interview. All right. Well, Hannah, welcome on the show. Today, we're going to talk a bit about mom brain, mom exhaustion, overwhelm, distraction, all of those things that, every mom encounters at some point during different seasons of life. And I know that you help coach moms through those times and help them to get through that. And so first, let's just share who you are, your book, and how you help moms.
Absolutely. So I've been titled America's #1 mom coach, and I've done it. There's a TEDx talk I've done on the mom brain, books, coaching, all of that. But the main thing, Lisa, is that I basically came to the end of my rope. God uses sometimes our worst days to create our best lives. And it was one of those days. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Before I had kids, I had a whole career as a behavior therapist. I helped people with, stress. I helped them with being able to engage with life. I found myself at a pit, and none of my strategies are working. So basically started researching the mom brain. I mean, I can tell you a little bit about that day if you want to really know the grisly truth. But so today I just help moms understand nothing's wrong with you. The main problem why moms are overwhelmed and stressed out and overstimulated is because we don't understand mom brain and we haven't learned how to work with it. It really does boil down to that.
Okay. So before doing this interview, I was looking through your book. I was reading quite a bit of that. And then I also was thinking about mom brain, because usually I'll hear, I'd say newer moms say, oh, mom brain. And I don't mean that in a way of it's not real, because I was thinking, man, I don't think I've ever experienced mom brain. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I have been pregnant or nursing for 17 years. So maybe I just don't know what a brain is like not on mom brain. So I sometimes think I need a fresh perspective on what that even means, or what the symptoms of it are, because my brain's always worked this way. I'm like, wait a minute. Because you were saying you had a career before being a mother. I didn't. So I went straight from sort of an abnormal life. School is, that's not the real world. I went straight from high school to college to pregnancy, marriage and pregnancy. And so I feel like my perspective might be a little bit off. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't much different in my case. Went from, high school, college, grad school, and then, being a wife and a mom. And so our lives are kind of similar because I have 7 kids, and I'm either pregnant or breastfeeding,
yes, for so many years,
for ages, friends in the decades, right?
Yeah.
And so we get used to mom brain. We get used to navigating with mom brain. That's not always productive, but at least we're surviving. At least we're making through. So first of all, here's some ways to know if you have mom brain. Now, if you had these situations, like you can't focus, get distracted, ADHD before children, it may not be 100% mom brain. So, but if you notice, gosh, after I had kids, it seemed like I can't get back to normal. It seems like I'm not focused. It seems like I'm overstimulated. That's mom brain. And some of the symptoms are overstimulation. We just too much sensory stimulation, sight, sounds, noise, all that. Also not being able to focus, not being able to complete tasks. You start things, you don't finish them. Memory loss. You walk in a room and you're like, what? Why did I come in here again? I don't remember. Free floating anxiety, which is anxiety and you can't pinpoint it. You just feel like the heart racing and you're not sure why. It's like I'm scared and I'm upset, but I don't even know what got me here.
Yeah.
And another one is anger that is not localized. So you're mad and you don't know why you're mad. So if this has been something that any of, the listeners have been struggling with, chances are is mom brain, because 87% of women do get mom brain. And you can look at an MRI, Lisa, and see the changes in a woman's brain before and after she has children.
Okay.
There's actually a 4%. There's a study that came in this past year that revealed there's a 4% loss of gray matter in a woman's brain after she has children. So your brain has changed anatomically and cognitively. And if you don't know how to deal with it, you're just going to keep on bumping up against that mom brain wall and keep stressing out and wishing things could get back to normal. Wish you weren't such a crazy lunatic with your kids. And that's not the case at all.
So what's the reason for that happens with the brain? Is it hormonal? Is it just too many things going on? Like, I also related a little bit to not really experiencing any kind of anxiety before kids, but then afterwards waking up in the middle of the night and thinking like, oh no, like what if this thing happens to this child?
Yes.
Like that's something I think like, well, I relate to that.
Oh my, you just nailed it. Like, okay, the reason this happens, it's not really hormonal. What happens in your brain is it's a change in the prioritization system of your brain. So before you have a child, the number one priority of your brain is to keep you alive. It's not about your success, it's about your safety. I'm going to keep you alive. After you have a child, a woman's brain, now the priority changes. She's no longer the top priority. Now your children top priority. Keep your children alive. So what happens as a result is it's kind of like we drop a filtering system. You know how sometimes you'll pick up your phone and well, maybe not you, but me, I'll like, God, what is wrong with my phone? Like videos aren't loading, things are slowing down. It's just kind of acting janky. I don't know what's up. And my kids will be like, Mom, let me see your phone. And they're like, oh my gosh, Mom, how many apps do you have open? Like literally, like they're just
I never close my apps. Yeah. I forget all about it. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Imagine mom brain is like a brain with all the apps open, because now since your job has become keep my child alive, you cannot filter your environment like you used to be able to filter your environment. Everything now is a potential risk.
Right.
And so that's why, like you just talked about, one of the symptoms of mom brain is an incredible imagination. However, we use it to create the worst case scenarios. Because our brain is always preparing. Like I'm in prep mode for whatever catastrophe could happen. So we will imagine the most gruesome, horrific things happening to our children and think, oh my God, what is wrong with me?
Where did that come from? Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from? And then if you're a Christian, like a faithful person, you're like, oh, this is horrible. I need to capture this. This is a toxic thought. But it's just your brain preparing for any of those potential cases. But it doesn't even make sense. It's not even logical. So there's this one time when my husband Blair and we watched this movie on television about some kind of, it's like an alien abduction or something. So we go to bed. He just rolls over and goes to sleep. I am up till it was like 3:45 in the morning, devising a strategy when and if aliens ever invaded our home, how I was going to get all the kids out. Like I was going to put the baby in the front of my shirt and like tie it up and the toddler on my back. And I'm going to put the put the stairs down, and the ladder down. And then my oldest could go first. And then like, I'm literally planning all this out. I mean, fortunately we have not been invaded by aliens in our
Not
home.
yet. Yeah.
Not yet. But if it happens, this woman's going to have a plan, right?
Well, and more more likely, how do you get all the kids out during a fire? Like that's the real thing. Like that's a
yeah, and we
realistic thing
imagine.
you're
We
thinking about.
imagine it. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll imagine our van careening off the side of a bridge into like an ocean. And how am I going to get
Yes.
all the kids?
And like you mentioned about your husband, and I've noticed with like all men, because and maybe I can't say all because I haven't talked to all men, but when I compare notes with other moms that I know personally, that I confide in all the time, men don't have this happen. What's the deal with that? Like they're just
They
more
don't need
logical. Like,
to.
well, why would that happen? I'm like, why do all women do this?
It's mom brain. This is how our
It's
brain
mom brain.
evolves.
It's not
And
dad brain.
one of the things is, and this happens all the time, is that we're always, especially with your audience and the level that God has brought you with influence, we're trying to help people take better care of themselves, right? I was like, you got to take care of yourself. And often people use this illustration of the mask dropping from the top of the airplane. They're like, okay, in the event of a drop in cabin pressure,
Right.
you know the spiel, and we're supposed
Yes.
to put a mask on ourselves and then our kids. Like that would never happen in an actual emergency. The mom brain would take over.
You absolutely would not. I agree with you.
You would not. You would have a
Nope.
bunch of kids and toddlers with masks on and a bunch of passed out moms all up
Yep.
and down the aisle.
You
Like
absolutely
that's
would.
just, and I can actually prove this because when like my children are grown, they don't need to be in the back seat, but I don't care if I have my 31-year-old in the front seat of my car. If I come to a stop,
You
my
throw that arm
arm,
over
yes,
there.
yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
That one action says, I will freaking go through this windshield, but you're going to stay safe. So our mom brain still is active in that way of always making sure our kids are okay, which is why self-care is so hard for moms.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a struggle. It's counterintuitive to the way the mom brain is wired.
Okay. So in some ways, because you're mentioning like you're still, worrying about your 31-year-old, because I understand that like my oldest is 16, but you don't stop worrying any less than you did before. Like my mom still tells me to text her when we leave her house when I get home. I'm going to be 40 this year. So in some ways I would think, okay, the more kids you have, maybe the worse it gets because you have more kids to worry about, but then also maybe not, or the older your kids get, maybe more perspective slightly helps you realize like some of the things that aren't going to happen. Or what's been your experience with that?
Well, my experience, of course, is just having a lot of kids. I don't know what it's like as soon as
Yeah,
one was
that's your own
born,
experience.
immediately you're like pregnant with another. But I will say in all of my coaching for moms, I've never noticed any difference aside from what we've trained our brain to do. So if you've trained your brain that worry is productive, you will worry
Oh,
about your children for the rest of your lives. Doesn't
okay.
matter.
Yes.
But if you've
Right.
trained your brain to operate in faith over fear and learn how to put the best energy and the best intention forward, then you will do that for the rest of your life. So if you're like thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait for my kids to be adults, so I don't have to worry about them anymore. Nope, not going to happen. If you're
You
like, oh,
better,
as soon
yeah.
as they're out of this chapter, it's going to be so much easier. No, it won't. Like, don't deceive yourself in thinking that circumstances are going to change, because we actually are creating our circumstances through the power of our mind and what we're putting all of that mental energy toward.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. When Luke and I were first married 17 years ago, we were on a super tight budget, and the only way that I could decorate my home and make it my own cozy space was by doing a lot of DIY and sewing. I've shared that for years on my YouTube channel, on this podcast, on my blog, and recently I put all of those resources together, all of the patterns, the tutorials, and then step-by-step instructions from getting a machine and threading it, learning about tension issues and the bobbin, all those things maybe over the years that have scared you away from sewing, into one course that I've called the Simple Sewing Series. If you've wanted to sew but have been intimidated by the process of getting started, or even if you're a more seasoned seamstress or sewist and you want to improve your skills, I really think that this will be a great resource for you. There's also a private community associated with it, so if you have sewing questions or you're excited to meet other people who are also getting started on their sewing journey, that's available with the course as well, and it's for a very affordable price. You can find my new course and all of the resources that go along with it over at bit.ly/simple sewing course. That's bit.ly/simple sewing course, all lowercase. That's where you can find more info and become a student. So what are some of the things that we can do to train our brains? And do you think some people are more prone? Like I've seen moms who, and I've seen moms who I think appear very, very, very chill. And I'm like, oh, you never worry about anything. But then something will come up and you realize, oh, you actually do. You just don't show it to me. So do you feel like there are some people who it's easier for them not to worry than some people obsess over very minor details? And if that is the case, how do you retrain your brain, especially if you're in the camp of like an over worrier?
Yeah. Well, I've heard some people just say, well, I'm a worrier. That's just what I am.
Yes, I've
And
definitely heard that.
right, right. I remember talking with someone. Can I be like Faith a little bit? Can I just
Oh,
bring in
absolutely.
Faith?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Cool. I didn't know if you, okay.
Yes, I'm a
So,
Christian.
okay, cool, cool. So I remember this one person telling me, well, that's just who I am. I'm just a worrier. And I was like, that's like saying I'm just a liar. That's just who I am. I just lie.
Right.
Or I mean, I know sounds like I'm just a murderer. That's just what I am. They're like, no, come on. I just worry. It's like, well, how many times are we told not to fear?
Yeah.
And not to worry. So we have to realize if God is so clear on saying this is not something I want in your life, why are we taking authority over it? Why are we letting it like be our identity? I'm just a worrier. What you're really saying is this is where I find solace. This is where I find peace. And this has become my source. So I feel like worry is worry is like worship, except to the opposite throne.
Yeah. And I do think that moms think if they worry more, they love their children more. So sometimes it's like a worry competition. Like, well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not even like a thing. That is exactly what so many moms believe. Like, well,
Yeah.
I worry more, therefore I'm a better mom. I mean, I don't know if it's so direct, but I do
But
think,
it is.
yeah, it is. It is.
It is. It's like, look how much I care.
I care. I care. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have been told, like, for example, I remember my daughter, two of my daughters, they went off to Iceland for just a week, just a camp. And they went with like two backpacks. And I remember someone saying, aren't you worried? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh my gosh, do you
You
not
must not love
care?
them.
I'm like, well, let's not confuse
Yeah.
care with worry. And also, what if we didn't care? Like, I know, okay, that sounds a little dramatic, but let's just go to the word. Jesus said, cast all your cares upon me because I care for you. So if we really know that he cares for us, why are we choosing to hold care? That comes from a place where we feel validated as a mom. So we have to really think, where am I seeking my validation? Where does my identity come from? Am I proving that I'm a good mom because I worry? Is it showing that I care? Or is it showing that I can't release them to know that God loves them even more than me and I can trust him with their care?
Ooh, that's the struggle. That's the
That's the
struggle.
struggle.
Because it doesn't always mean that your kids are going to live long, happy lives or live or something's going to happen in the way that we see it from a worldly perspective. Because I've seen very loving, obviously, things happen to like a mom who has given it all to God and it still has turned out in the way that we wouldn't recognize as good from a worldly perspective. And so I think that is the tricky part.
Well, I want to share something with you, and I'm going to be kind of bold sharing this, very vulnerable, very transparent, and I don't think my son would mind, but I want to speak to that mom who is like, gosh, letting him go. That's terrifying. And I don't even know what that means or how I would do it. I remember one time one of my sons was hanging out with people that I didn't like him hanging out with. Like they were a bunch of potheads and they were, just not good people. And he was starting to exhibit those qualities. He was hanging out with them. I knew he was probably like smoking pot with them. I knew he was probably like getting into whatever they were getting into. In prayer, God said, release it. Let me like take your hands off and I'll put my hands on. And I'm going to tell you this, Lisa, and I am being very vulnerable in sharing this, but I think vulnerability helps other moms too. Like let's just put all the pretense aside. We all do struggle in areas. And it was a struggle. And I remember I'd never set a curfew for him. I didn't tell him he had to stay home. I didn't tell him I didn't want him hanging out with them. I just let it go and then prayed over that. And this is how I prayed. I said, God, thank you that you love him even more than I do. Thank you that you go before him, that you're caring for him. Thank you that you're going to give him revelation in his heart, and you're going to give him wisdom, and you're going to bring him back. That was so hard. But every day after that point, I celebrated. And I was like, God, thank you that you're there where I can't be, that you're overhearing conversations that I don't have access to, that you're in places I can't go. And thank you that you're bringing him back. And the craziest thing, Lisa, oh my gosh, I remember I was sitting on the back porch and the Holy Spirit said, text him and just tell him you love him and you're proud of him. Now, I was not proud of him. I didn't like the people he was hanging out with. I didn't like his behaviors. But I texted him and I said, hey, I just want you to know I love you and I'm so proud of you. And he told me he got that text when he was hanging out with his friends. And he said he immediately left and he never saw them again. That was the day that changed everything. So I'm saying, could I have created that? Probably not in my own power, but letting go and letting God invade that situation and then operate by faith. Not, oh, I hope he's okay. Oh, I hope he's not getting too messed up. Oh, I hope it doesn't get in a car wreck. Oh, I hope not that. But like, God, thank you that you got him. You're over that. I release it and I celebrate it. And
Yeah,
using faith in that way, I don't ever want to go back.
I think I'm far from feeling like that. I will say I think that, obviously there's a time and a place for boundaries, but then
Right.
also there's certain things as a mom that you can't control that you might think that you can control. And yeah, the wisdom to not try to control everything, I think, is the hard part. And it gets harder and harder.
Because it's counterintuitive to the
Yeah.
mom brain too. We want to control and make sure every single kid is okay
Yeah.
and the house is okay and the money's okay and the food is okay
And the
and
whole process
yeah,
of
all
being a
the things.
mom is just a slowly letting them out into the world. And you don't maybe necessarily
Yeah.
feel ready, but there's a time and a place where, you might control every aspect of their environment for so many years. And then at some point, it's just like you're out in the world. No matter how protective of a mother you are, that moment will happen. It might happen when they're 24. It might happen, for depending on the maturity of your child and what that might look like. It might happen at a younger age than that, but it's going to. And
Yeah.
I think if you haven't practiced giving up that control and giving it over to God in prayer, I think at some point it's going to be, you might turn into like the
Yeah.
controlling mom that everybody dreads, right? I mean,
Right. And sometimes I don't think it's a moment. I don't think it's even like a chapter. I
it's
think
like a
it's
process.
learning. Yeah, it's a process. It's learning to release, take captive your thoughts. First of all, take every thought captive. Is this thought dominated with fear or faith? Take every thought captive, pull it under the obedience of Christ. And then it's the process of raising adults. We're not raising kids. We're raising adults.
Right. Well, raising
And
kids is easy. It's raising adults that's the hard part, right?
right. But that starts from the very first moment when you teach self-discipline, when you teach honor, when you teach respect. And and all of a sudden they're like out there and they're doing their thing. And I've seen so many women struggle so much with not being able to fall into an identity of a powerful woman aside from being a protective mom.
I've seen it.
And so, yeah, it is a process.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because we've kind of touched on the anxiety portion and, all of that, because I think probably all of us can relate to that, even if it's more of
Oh,
a
yeah.
private thing. Because like I said, I've seen moms who you think are so laid back, but then they express concerns and you're like, okay, you actually worry about the same things as me. What about things
Yeah.
like forgetfulness, distraction, overwhelm? How does mom brain relate to that?
Well, it actually causes all of that. So that's why the overstimulation, that's why the overwhelm. One thing that we have to do, well, we can't really change our thoughts until we're aware of them. So one thing, and I want to give you such practical help because I wish someone had helped me before it took me like 10, 15 years to understand how to do this. But the one thing I tell moms to do, if you're wanting to take control of this anxiety and overwhelm and overstimulation, first you have to be aware of it. And so there's so much going on internally that sometimes we're not listening to our own thoughts. They're just kind of like a dull roar in the background, and we're not really listening to what we're telling ourselves. So the first thing that I tell moms to do is get some type of external stimuli to interrupt an internal pattern. So we're not even aware of an internal pattern. So we need something outside of ourselves. You can't battle a thought with a thought. You need something outside to kind of like interrupt that pattern, right? And so I remember when I first started learning how to work with my mom brain, I went to Walmart and got the cheapest watch with an hourly charm. It was before cell phones even. And every time I would hear that go off, I would stop and I would say, what am I thinking about? What thought am I holding right now? Is it powerful? Is it productive? Is it peaceful? And most of the times it wasn't. But so that's what I had to start doing, is interrupting. I wore a whistle around my neck, like like YMCA coach whistle, right? And so every time I felt tension in my chest and my shoulders, everyone feels it differently. That was telling me where I was going into anxiety. I would blow the whistle as a pattern interrupt. Okay. Stop the thinking, get out of your head for a minute. Because if you're stay in your head, you're dead. Get out of your head and say, what was I thinking about? Now we can bring that thought captive. Is that really true? Is it empowering me? Is it weakening me? And then we start to become more aware of our mom brain. And when we're aware of our thoughts, only then can we start changing the way we're thinking.
Do some women falsely believe, and I think I'm one of them, so I don't know, you can tell me if this is wrong, but I feel like the more productive I am and the more plans I have less time to worry about like having these wrong thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something a lot of us chase.
Well, I think how you would know whether that's true for you or not is when everything quiets down, where does my mind go?
Oh, right.
So at the end of the day, when things are still, do I have to create some type of stimulation in my brain so I'm not left with my thoughts? Do I have to watch TV? Do I have to scroll on my phone? Do I have to pick up something to distract myself? Because I find that moms respond to stress really in four different ways. We either project toward others, blame others for it. We protect, we buff ourselves from it. We watch TV or scroll on our phones, or we start to produce, which means I'm busy, I'm working hard. And the last one is that really learning how to promote our thinking. That's the last one we do, unfortunately, because we get so caught up in the other things. So how you would gauge that is, where does my mind go when there is stillness? Am I okay with that? And if you're not okay with that, first of all, no guilt, no shame, no condemnation. Just be curious. Ask yourself, I wonder why.
Yeah, that's a really good gauge. I think that's something that I definitely struggle with. But my mind, I feel like I have so little time like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because we got 1,000 things to do,
Right.
right? And also you're a very creative person, and so am I. And we're always like, "Oh, I got a new idea. I got the
Right.
next idea." Right. And so that's not bad. Like I remember people, and this probably bothers you too, when people are like, you should slow down. You shouldn't work so hard. You need like, no, that's actually like joyful for me.
I do think we have to, yeah, we really have to be aware of personalities, because one mom will say, well,
Right.
you should do this, it'll make you feel so much better. And what they're saying would make them feel better, but would be the exact opposite prescription for somebody who has a personality different from them. Yeah.
Right. Right. So me and my husband, like we will go, like, let's say, go to Mexico for a few days, and he's fine sitting back, having a margarita in a chair by the pool. And I'm like, oh, I need my notebook, and
Yeah.
I need to listen to a podcast, and I need to be writing down notes for my next thing. Both of us are in a completely chill, relaxing, productive state.
Yeah. But very different from each other.
Very different. And so we need to appreciate that. But how uncomfortable are we when we're not producing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there a time when we can just not that even the stillness, even in the stillness, we can be productive in our relationship with God, and how can we still our minds to meditate and pray, and can we do that? And so often the reason a lot of moms avoid open time is because we don't like where our mind goes. It
Right.
often goes into blame, shame, condemnation, and that's very uncomfortable. So we may as well fill that with something that validates us and gives us a little more worth. And okay, well, I'm being productive. Even worry, I'm being productive.
It feels productive.
It does. I'm doing something, right?
Yeah, it's not. I'm totally comfortable with not being productive, but I want there to be some kind of plan. Like I don't mind if the plan for the day is fun, like the entire day is fun. That's totally comfortable with that. It's the thing that makes me really uncomfortable is having like I'm good with like a schedule day too, like a day where we have our breakfast, our homeschool, our lunch, a few work hours, and then like evening plans. Great with that. Great with the day where I say I'm going to leave at 8 a.m. with all the kids. We're going to go do this very fun thing, meet up with friends at a park, whatever. What I cannot do is an open Saturday, for example. That's
Mm,
I is that
no.
just personality or is this bad?
That is enough to induce nausea in me as well. No,
Okay.
I'm serious. And people, okay, so I'm a very, very much an extrovert. I very much like, I love to go to any party. I love meeting people, but give me a day with no plans and I go banana pants. I've got
Yeah.
to, and it seems like people who are very creative, like you, like me, would be good with that. But we're not. We're like, no, no, I just
Yeah.
have to have a structure to put my craziness into.
Right. Yeah, I do think that people would think the opposite. Like, oh, you must love being home all day and just creating. And I don't I do. I just have to have, like you
As long
said,
as there's a plan associated
there's
with
got
it.
to be a plan associated with it. Like just to say like it's Saturday, we don't really have, our normal school work, schedule. Just hang out at home. That is
Ew.
just like
Ew.
I cannot do it. And I know that there's so many
And then
introverts who
the
are
nails
like,
on the chalkboard.
"Oh, it's the
Yeah, the nails
worst."
on the chalkboard are, well, I don't know. What do you want to do?
No,
Ew,
no, 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 no. Yeah, and there'll be
no.
people who are like, "Oh, we're gonna have a peaceful." We have all of our plans fell through for Sunday, so we're just gonna stay home. And I'm like, "Oh,
Like,
that
ew.
sounds awful." And it's funny because yeah, like one person would think, "How would you ever recharge for the week if you don't have that day?" And I'm thinking, how do you ever recharge for the week if you can't like
From that
get out
day.
and do something? I'm not talking about work. I'm talking about like meeting up with family, spending the day outside. I'm
Yeah.
totally okay with that. Like I'll
Yeah.
spend way too many
Yeah.
days doing that. Like I'll ditch work and do that.
Oh,
But just, yeah,
absolutely.
no
But
plan.
don't give me like all these loose ends.
Right.
Like, and there are people who are actually listening right now, like, I do not understand what you guys are
No.
talking about. And that's totally okay too. A perfect example of this is, and we talked about this briefly, like the weather before we started yesterday and day before, it was going to be like 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. So my husband's like, cool, we can go outside and enjoy the day. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to look at my calendar. We're going to go out on the lake and kayak for this many hours. And then we're going to sit and this is what we're going to have for lunch. And then we're going to have this open thing. And maybe we can watch a movie. But I need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so maybe that's not bad. Maybe that's just personality. But I've definitely heard moms
Maybe
say
it's
things like, well, you just need a whole day to hang out, maybe in your home to recharge. I'm like, I don't think that
no,
works for me like that.
no, I would like give me a wall to paint or
Yeah.
something.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, even like when it's sunny, I'm like, all right, I'm going to spend this many hours weeding. So he's like, doesn't matter what he does. He'll sit around. He'll do whatever. He's that kind of person,
Yeah.
which is fine for him. But I'm like, I'm going to be weeding, and then I'm going to be moving the plants outside. They're going to be pruning these bushes, and then we're going to go on the kayaks. And so now my mind can like chill
Because you know
because
what's
I don't
next.
have to create something.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't really, for some reason, I've always called myself not a planner. Like, I'm not a planner. I'm just not that type of person. But this would kind of suggest that maybe that's not totally true. And then the way I run my business too,
I
I'm like,
think
maybe I am a planner more than I
I don't know if you're a
associated.
planner or if you love structure
I would always say I don't
more.
like structure, but like I obviously can't stand unstructure. So I guess that's True.
But I think you didn't like structure and what was put into that structure.
Yeah.
So, for example, I couldn't stand. I mean, I homeschooled all my kids. It's like the school structure was like, all right, now we're gonna get 45 minutes of sunshine, and now back to this book. And then it's like, no, give me the structure, but let me decide what to put in it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That solved that one.
And we're all different. We just seem to like, we totally vibrate at that level where it's like, I want to be super creative in a plan provided, in a structure provided.
Yes. And maybe it's just the more kids too. It's like it just feels so chaotic to have anything other than a plan. I think that could be
Oh,
true too. Like sometimes you forget the situation in life maybe you're in, but I don't know. Maybe it'll always be that way. I don't know. It's hard to remember.
maybe it is a lot of kids because I think about a day without plans when all my kids were little would be a living hell. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but it
no
would be
plans at
because
all.
they're going to find something to do,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, we're going to do, that's why, I homeschooled, and that's why I called it R&R time, like reading and rejuvenation. Like, no, you're going to sit and you're going to read for 1 hour, and then you have 1 hour, and then we're going to go outside. And then we have these learning activities. It was probably mostly for me, so they wouldn't wreak havoc all over
Yes.
creation
Yeah.
if I let them
Hmm.
go. And that's why, like, I would go somewhere and my husband would have them. He's like, I don't know how you do this. This is complete chaos. I'm like, well, what did they do? Well, I mean, I just let them do whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We had way too many days like that in the winter that were just like, oh, we can't do
Oh,
this. We cannot do this.
yeah. I know. Winter is hard with the big family.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Many years ago, when I was pregnant with my fifth child, I decided to add YouTube to my internet business to diversify and open up a whole world of opportunities. Many things have changed about YouTube since that day. A lot of things, honestly, have remained the same, but I love to educate students on how to create an income from home through YouTube with my YouTube Success Masterclass, which you can find over at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, all lowercase. There I share the mistakes that I made when I first got started, how you can achieve success faster, and how to earn a diverse and stable income from the YouTube platform. So if you are interested in using video to reach a wider audience for a business you already have, or you're just curious about what it might look like to incorporate YouTube into your life as a homemaker or a stay-at-home mom, go ahead and check out that free masterclass that I put together for you. Okay, we had a few audience questions on things like distractions because that's one of the symptoms of mom brain. And I know a lot of moms, at least maybe when they're new moms, struggle with figuring out like how to still move through distractions and get things done that are important to get done. So this one says, how do you keep focused on tasks outside of the usual kid distractions? Once I get a second to work on something, I either forget what I needed to do or I'm stressed out and just want to relax.
Okay, so I have a bunch of mom brain hacks.
Oh, okay.
So I like to make things super practical for
Yeah.
moms. So it's not some like theoretical thing that you're never going to apply. But one of these mom hacks is called bow tying. So I want you to imagine we like giving someone a gift and you wrap it, but the last thing you do is you always put a bow on it, right? Like that's usually how we gift wrap.
Mhm.
We wrap a present and we stick a bow on it. The reason moms often get distracted is they've done a job about 85% of the way, and it was enough to reduce the stress of it not being done, but not enough to release the dopamine of it actually being completed.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have this cortisol, like we look at our dirty kitchen and all of a sudden we have this cortisol and this adrenaline. We're like, oh, I don't like this. And so we'll get all the things off the counter and wash a few dishes. The cortisol level goes down a little bit and then we're okay. Now we're back to surviving and not freaking out. But we haven't done that last 15% where we're like, yes, oh my God,
Yeah.
this feels so good. And so I always tell people, tie a bow around it. tie a bow around it. Like keep on going till that, like those habits of completion, because what it's going to do is you're going to start practicing that habit. It's going to release more dopamine in your brain. And then you're like, well, this actually feels really good. This one person in our Facebook group, she's like, this is how my house looks because I'm tying so many bows around all these projects. And she had literally taken this huge ribbon and wrapped it around her kitchen counter, like the whole
Yeah,
counter,
literal
and tied a big bow. She's like, everything, like my house looks like all the bows are being tied because it started to release that dopamine. She's like, I completed it. Like just do the last little bit. It's going to be hard to drag yourself to do that last 15%. Instead of putting the laundry down, fold it, put it away. Instead of putting that thing at the base of the stairs to go up, take it up there. Like that
Right.
last
Go all the
thing,
way with it.
putting
Yeah.
it in that resting place is going to be so fulfilling. You're going to be like, God, I should have been doing this all along.
Yeah. The most tangible thing, like you said, is the kitchen. Like you not only do the dishes and all of that, but you wipe down the stovetop, the counter
Yeah.
or the counter and the cabinet fronts really quickly. And you walk on like, that just looks so good.
Oh, it feels so good. You're like, no kids are allowed in this kitchen for the next 10 minutes at least
Yeah.
because it looks so good. And even like wiping out the sink. And then it becomes so fulfilling too.
Yeah. So what would you say to the kid distractions when it comes to something like that? Like, well, yeah, but as soon as I go to do that last 15%, there's children that are, under my feet or distracting
Right.
me from finishing it.
Okay, this is going to be what moms do not want to hear, but it's so effective. Bring them into the finishing touch. Bring them into it. Okay, you wipe down this part of the kitchen and I'm going to wipe down this part and then I'm going to be all done. And you can even tell them, I've got to do this much more. Could you help me out by taking this all the way upstairs and putting this in your sister's room? Or like let them understand the power of completion.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because they need you right then, could they help you and then you help them? And then they're learning to respect your role as a mom and the work that you do. And you're teaching them the skill of patience.
Yeah, that makes
I mean,
sense.
with my 7 kids, I mean, we were joking the other day about how differently they were raised than some of their peers because it's like, no, we all chip in, we work together, we have each other's backs and we can do hard things.
Yeah. Okay, what about screen time? Because I think this has increased mom's anxiety. This person says, I find myself using social media to distract myself from the feelings of overwhelm, often in order to cope. How do I pull myself out of this rut? And how do I get a handle on all of it? Because that's the age-old question.
Yeah. I think about it this way, more is caught than taught with our children. And if you're absorbed in the screen, then they'll be absorbed in the screen.
I think
And
this mom's talking about how to get herself out of the
right,
rut. Like
right.
even
But
if
if
you're,
we know that our children are watching us,
oh,
then we're
okay.
teaching them these
Yeah.
habits. Like everything you're doing, you're giving your kids permission to do the same. Everything you leave undone, every word that comes out of your mouth, every bad habit you have, you're saying to your children, I want this to be in your life as well. That is enough. It should be enough to lift you to a higher standard. Say, wait, what if I could just set a timer? I can scroll on social media, but I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. I literally have this egg timer that I keep in. I mean, old fashioned, turn it, you can hear the tick, 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 right? I keep this available because it helps me remember that every minute matters, every second matters. In the Bible, it's like, just help me remember that my life is just a series of these little moments. And if we can hear that tick, 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 even in our heads, we realize, is this what I want my time to be filled with? So
Mm-hmm.
the way we can get off screens is number one, realize what they're doing, potential
Yeah.
damage, what they're teaching our children. Number two, set a timer. If you really want to do a screen and you really want to scroll on your phone, give yourself permission, but give yourself permission within limits so you'll know when to get off. And number three, if it's really, really bad, like I have a really bad addiction to it, then I would pair the activity with a negative response. Every time I picked up the phone, I would try to create an image in my head of damage it could be doing. So I'm releasing that. It's basically pairing negative responses together in your brain to create damage around,
Mm-hmm.
like to create a break of that pattern. So, but I think usually it's enough to be like, wait, I can respect my children, my future enough that I can get off this. I do have the power to do this. I'm not subjected to it. No one's like handcuffing me and making me watch this. I'm choosing this, and we have to have power behind what we choose.
It is so addictive, and it's weird
Yeah.
because it's self-sabotaging. Like we all know that we feel more rested if we lay in the bathtub with a book, or even watching a show while not scrolling your phone is a more restful activity.
Yeah.
But people get addicted to the point where it's like sometimes even the self-control methods don't even necessarily pull them out of it. I do like your idea of setting the timer because that's a very tangible reminder of like, wow, like I just wasted, what could I have done with, an extra 30
Yeah.
minutes? Yeah.
What could I have done? I scrolled on Instagram for 30 minutes. What could I have done? Not scrolling on TikTok. Oh my gosh.
What could you do if you had 30 minutes and people aren't scrolling Instagram for 30 minutes. They're scrolling way more
Yeah.
than that throughout the day if you add it
Yeah.
all up. So if you had an extra, let's just say 2 hours a day times 7 days a week, sometimes we think there's not enough time to do like just the basic things, like to take care of the house, just, some of the basic things to keep us alive. And that's a sobering reminder.
It is.
That
It is. I remember one time I
Yeah.
was coaching this mom, and it was on a Zoom call, and she's like, I really am homeschooling the kids. I got 4 kids. And you're telling me to like set up, these zones in my home and be able to like manage it. I do not have time. I literally do not have time. I said, okay, you're doing this on your laptop, right? She said, yeah. I said, go get your phone. Where is it? She's like, it's right here. I said, okay, go to a screen time app. And I want you
Ooh.
to open up your screen time app. And there was an audience, there were like 32 people in this Zoom call.
She's like, no, no, no,
And
no,
I
no, no.
said, she said she found it. And I said, okay, how much time did you spend on your phone yesterday? I don't know if you're going to believe this. 7 hours, 42 minutes.
Now, were there podcasts
She
playing in
said,
the
but I did
background?
listen to some podcasts. I said, for almost 8 hours.
But still, even having 8 hours of like distraction, even if it was all podcasts, like your brain's halfway somewhere else, halfway engaged in the task.
I said, so we're going to take that whole theory you created about time, and we're going to roll up in a little ball. We're going to throw it in the trash, and we're going to talk about what really is standing in the way, because you have time. So we're going to work on what thought
it's almost always a lie.
It's always
that we
a
don't
lie,
have time.
girl. Always.
Yeah. I've done this with working out, and like literally today I have this app that has like a personal trainer, and I'm supposed to do my workouts on this day. And I was like, all of a sudden I was sitting on the porch with my kids, just sitting there listening to my son play his ukulele, and the other one and I were just on the little, porch swing. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, my workout. Like, I'm just sitting here. What excuse is this?
Right.
Like, I can pull that little app up and just be sitting here still, or not sitting, but standing, doing the little thingies she tells me to do. It's such a lie. Like, 'cause I feel like I could like somehow, and I say this like I'm so busy, but I could make the argument, I almost said 6 kids. I have 8 kids. We homeschool, we work from home. Like, I have no time. And that is not
never true.
I just don't like to work out.
I know. I just don't want to.
I just don't want to do it. I don't like it. I don't see the point.
Reverse lunges right now. Like, no.
Yeah, because I always have time to cook. Like, when people tell me, I don't have time to bake bread, I don't have time to cook, I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much time. Yeah. But then they're like, you should work out. I'm like, but see, I don't have time for that. You don't understand.
And then someone who works out avidly every day is like, I don't see how that's true.
Lady.
And then you can tell about baking, and they're like, oh, God, no, I don't have time to bake.
Yes.
Oh, you don't want
and in
to.
reality, and this is controversial because I actually made a reel one time, or I made a YouTube video, but then my social media manager turned it into a reel. And reels are where things can go viral and people can come out of the woodwork with their commentary. But I said something like, you do have time. And, on these things I'm speaking to myself too. I'm not like, you guys have time. I'm the one over here getting it all done, and you're all a bunch of lazy. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
But that's what they're hearing.
But the defensiveness on that reel, which was interesting because we are watching a reel, we're commenting, we're responding to comments.
Look where you're spending your time.
I think it proves my point. Yeah. But like, we're all very defensive about the we have time thing. Like, very defensive. Like, if somebody comes on, if I come on here and I say, honestly, there is enough time to do just like the basic things in your home, that definitely
Yeah.
triggers some people.
And maybe we need to look at why we're holding so much sensitivity around that. Nothing can trigger us unless we believe to some extent that is true.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm speaking to myself too. Like there's so many things I don't have time for. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's just, you know, we have to be honest with ourselves because
Yeah.
we're buying
I don't
into
have
that.
time to do my taxes. Are you kidding
Yeah, I just
me?
don't have time, government. I'm sorry.
Time.
I don't have time.
I had to get caught up on this Netflix series that I
Yeah.
started time to do that.
Yeah. I think if we're all a little bit honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got to that, but the next audience question was overdoing it. Advice for moms who just keep pushing themselves to do it all until they get sick.
Wow. She must have known my mom.
Oh,
My mom would do until she physically would get sick. And I remember seeing that pattern and being like, I could do that, but I don't want to. So a lot of times the reason we overdo is we just keep getting back to this validation. I have got to be validated. With motherhood, it's not like we can say, look at my degrees and look at my success and look at how much money I make.
right.
It's so intuitive and it's so like self-regulated. Sometimes the only way we can get validation is by showing how much we do
Mm-hmm.
and showing that we're exhausted and showing that, see, I got sick again because I'm doing so much. And so a lot of times the reason sickness comes about is not because you're doing too much, but because the doing is operating as a result of the mindset of unworthiness. That's what's making you sick.
So how do you change that?
You have to like get in there and figure out what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's that interruption. Well, why did I think I had to do this?
Right.
Why did I think this had to be perfect? One of my mantras that I live by is sloppy success beats perfect failure. Because I can go for perfection, but number one, it's not possible. And number two, it sounds so boring.
Yeah. And it's
It's
where
just,
do you draw the line? Like if you're going to make your house perfect, where do you draw the line? Because like there's lots of things I could do right now if I wanted to
yeah.
make it perfect.
Like, can you just like spray something on that pile on the kitchen floor and mop it with a paper towel on your foot and throw it away? Or do you have to like mop
Right.
the
Right.
kitchen floor? Right? Do you have to like, can you just throw all the socks together? Like, can you safety pin them together, throw them in a drawer, or do you have to like sort everything? And I
Yeah.
mean, my mom would even iron sheets.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay, that's
Right.
that's
That's when I
something
say you
else.
have
And
time
it's
to get the basic house things done, I'm not including matching all the socks. I'm not including ironing sheets or full blown mopping your house in that.
right,
Just mean like,
right.
it's like basic stuff.
Sloppy success. I remember after like my mom learned how to chill a lot. And later on in life, um, she just had such a different perspective. And I think she realized it really didn't net me anything different. I could have gone through every day with enjoying it and not trying to work so hard to improve anything. And I remember she said, I said, Mom, I sewed these curtains and they look so horrible. Like from far away, they look they look kind of normal, but when you get close, the seams are off and all that. She's like, Hannah, you don't see much on a running horse. And I was like, okay, I can live with that.
Yes.
Like it's
That's a
kind
good
of like
one.
that. My kids are in theater, and there's always the 20-foot rule. Like if you didn't notice it from 20 feet, you're not going to notice it at all. So it's like, okay, go by the 20-foot rule. If you really want to look under my bed, fine. That's kind of scary, but if you want to go there, sure.
Yeah. Well, that's where I've eased up in so many things. Like my standards are just not as high as they were as a young mom, and I think that's partially just from survival, but like to get like we're talking basic cleanliness. Things are clean. They're
Yeah.
not perfectly sorted. They're not, perfectly folded and pressed and ironed, and I'm probably not going to
Yeah.
have on the coolest outfit or,
But it's clean enough to be a house. It's dirty enough to be a home.
You're full of the sayings. I love it. I'm going to use that running horse one because I have a daughter she gets so much done, but she is not a perfectionist. I'm like,
Yep, that's it. Sloppy success, baby.
And you can't see it on a running horse. That's a good one.
Too much on a running horse.
All right, well, tell the listeners where they can find more from you. You are the #1 mom coach. So if they're feeling especially overwhelmed, distracted, they have mom brain to the degree that they're like, I'm just wallowing. Like, I cannot get past this.
Right.
Tell them where they can find you and learn more.
Well, definitely you can go to my website, hannahkeeley.com. We also have a mom brain makeover. If you want to just go there and learn a little more about mom brain, you can go to Mom Brain Makeover and check that out too.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave that all down in the description box or the show notes, depending on where you're listening to this episode. And thank you so much, Hannah. This has been very encouraging.
Yeah, thank you. Love what you're doing. Keep doing it.
Thanks, as always, for listening to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. My husband Luke and I and our 8 kids work together side by side on our little homestead and use our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel to reach other homemakers, home cooks, and homesteaders with practical recipes in daily family life. For everyday sourdough recipes, make sure to check out our blog, farmhouseonboone.com. And to dig deeper, we do also offer a course called Simple Sourdough over at bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. That's all one word, bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. If you're looking to learn how we earn an income online, check out my YouTube course at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube course, all one word.